Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and it's time for another episode of Tropes, Shonen, and Dragon Ball. Our topic for this video? Beware the nice ones.
His power level... It's at 1307!
You stop hurting my
Tropes are not inherently bad things. Just because a story arc, plot device, or character archetype can be boiled down to a few pages on TV tropes doesn't necessarily detract from their overall quality. Tropes are not bad. Formula is not bad. In fact, by sticking to a formula, you can often do things that a less traditional story cannot. For example, being able to genuinely surprise the audience when the formula suddenly breaks. In a formulaic story, the audience begins to have preconceptions over how the narrative is going to progress. So when these stories abruptly shift away from their strict formula, oftentimes no one is expecting it. And as a result, the new story elements introduced can be legitimately shocking and, because of that, incredibly iconic. This doesn't just apply to general storylines either. This applies to characters. If a character is given a strict archetype and personality that they stick with throughout most of the series, it can make it especially jarring and unexpected when these characters, for one reason or another, break these archetypes. And this leads us into the trope of this episode, Beware the Nice Ones. Beware the Nice Ones is a trope of a character trait. It represents the idea that the nicest, kindest, least violent characters in a story, the ones who would be slowest to anger, are the characters that you especially do not want to see ever get angry. Because if they do ever get angry, the results can be incredibly dramatic, sometimes even catastrophic. It's a trope that comes from natural curiosity. Humans tend to experiment with what they have control over, and that includes their storytelling. Anyone who's played a role-playing game can attest to this. The idea behind Beware the Nice Ones comes from this curiosity. This desire to know, what happens if something so awful occurs that the normally peaceful character loses their temper? What happens when you force them to act out of character? And it's because of that natural curiosity that if something like it happens, we want to see a powerful result. We want our experimentation to amount to something big, to make it feel like it was worth it, which is why this trope occurs in the first place. It's why, when the kind character gets angry, you know something significant is going to occur as a result of it. It's why you need to beware in the first place. In terms of its use in Dragon Ball, Beware the Nice Ones is a trope that appears several times in the story, by several different characters. The first instance was probably when the pacifistic Android 8 becomes enraged after seeing Goku get shot, and as a result, punches the villain General White out of a building. While Goku probably would have been able to beat White without 8's help, it was still a significant moment which proved just how strong the android could be when forced to violence. It was then used significantly to the protagonist Goku, as the normally happy-go-lucky boy becomes enraged after seeing his best friend Krillin's death at the hands of the demon Tambourine. The event pushes Goku so far that he becomes vengeance-filled and starts acting a lot more bloodthirsty than he ever had up until that point of the story. While the circumstances of the particular moment mean that the enraged Goku didn't accomplish as much as you'd expect, the change in Goku's attitude and character pervades that entire arc. Goku finally getting angry is so significant that the entire arc of Piccolo Daimao is essentially dedicated to it. Once that arc is over, the trope dies down a bit. But by the Z era of Dragon Ball, it was brought back to the forefront of the story with the introduction of Son Gohan. If you were to take this trope on its own and turn it into a character, you'd probably get someone like Son Gohan. He practically embodies the trope and plays it relatively straight. The son of Goku, Gohan is a kind-hearted boy who wants nothing more than to be a scholar. But if he gets angered by someone hurting his loved ones or any innocent bystanders, he can fly into a sudden berserk rage, and in that moment increase his power to heights unprecedented even by the story universe itself. In its first appearance, An enraged, untrained 4-year-old Gohan was measured to have power rivaling even his father and Piccolo, and almost as much as the alien that was giving them so much trouble. That is something that, even in-universe, was seen as unbelievable. This power of his shows up several times as the story of Dragon Ball goes on, giving him the ability to face off against almost any threat, no matter how much stronger than him they initially seemed. And, in several instances, it makes him the single most powerful character in the entire story. So, why was it the case? The in-universe reason given for this incredible power is that, as Goku is revealed to be an alien, Gohan is also revealed to be a strange alien-human hybrid, theorized to have potential power beyond both races he's a part of. But that doesn't necessarily explain why it's linked to his emotions or why it especially comes out when he's angry. We can understand that by understanding the trope. Gohan is the only character who consistently gains massive boosts in power when he's angry because, by his very personality, he's the last character you'd expect to get angry for any reason. He's a character who wants to be a scholar, who's shy and polite, and who wouldn't necessarily try to resolve issues with violence. Characters like some of the villains can fly into a rage just by being outmatched in a battle. By contrast, Gohan has to see his loved ones get hurt and even killed for him to snap. It's something that shouldn't normally happen in an everyday scenario, so when it does, that's what makes it so strong. And out of universe, the idea of a character being able to get stronger due to their emotions means they can gain power-ups during a battle itself. This allows them the ability to go into a battle outmatched in power, but still having the ability to win, or at least deal some significant damage. In particular, Gohan's hidden power is used as a trump card by the heroes that does end up paying off multiple times. Later on in the story, we're also introduced to Android 16, who, despite having a gentle personality and preferring to birdwatch than fight, when provoked to battle, reveals that he's significantly stronger than his android cousins 17 and 18. His character is especially interesting in that it's never stated in the story itself as to why he was more powerful and why he had a gentle personality to begin with, although some recent interviews with Akira Toriyama claimed he was purposely designed like that to protect him. Whether you think that contradicts what was presented in the original story or not is up to you. But what makes Beware the Nice Ones such an important trope in Dragon Ball is that it was single-handedly responsible for defeating two of the main villains of the series, both Frieza and Cell. With Frieza, the trope occurs to Goku. Goku's transformation into the legendary Super Saiyan can really be seen as a Beware the Nice Ones moment. Frieza pushes the normally kind-hearted Goku too far by killing his best friend and threatening to do the same to others. As a result, Goku fully loses himself to anger in a much more dramatic and intense way than even during Krillin's first death to Tambourine. And to make the moment particularly significant, Goku gains a massive increase in power and a radical change in both appearance and personality. The Super Saiyan, what Goku becomes, is initially portrayed as a form of Beware the Nice Ones. Goku describes it to Frieza as a pure heart awakened by rage. A pure-hearted soul, someone you wouldn't expect to feel rage, becoming enraged. That was the reason given as to why it was Goku who was the one who transformed, and not, say, a character like Vegeta, who was much more likely to feel those kinds of emotions. And it was only with the power of a Super Saiyan, with the power of Beware the Nice Ones, that Frieza was able to be defeated in the first place. In the case of Cell, Beware the Nice Ones was explored in much more detail, and actually discussed by the characters in-universe, in an almost self-aware way. When fighting Cell, Gohan explains his tendencies to gain massive boosts in power when enraged, and Cell actually attempts to trigger this by trying to get Gohan angry by any means necessary. First he tries to kill Gohan, thinking that fear of death would be enough, and when that doesn't work, he makes his Cell Juniors hurt and attempt to kill Gohan's family and friends, in a similar vein to how Gohan's power worked earlier in the series. Cell tries to invoke Beware the Nice Ones in order to get a proper challenge, thinking he could take on Gohan no matter how much stronger he got, only for this to backfire on him when Gohan's resulting power was far more than he was expecting, and it was that power that led to Cell's defeat. This is why tropes are important. If you don't pay attention to them, even in-universe, they might end up blowing up in your face. Literally, in some cases. And that was how Beware the Nice Ones was used in the story of Dragon Ball. In terms of its use outside Dragon Ball, Beware the Nice Ones is a trope prevalent in many other shonen manga and anime. The trope is often used as a secondary trait of a character, something that isn't invoked very often. And when the trope does occur, it usually occurs to the protagonist. There have been several storylines in shonen where the villain has been defeated by the hero gaining a massive power-up as a result of the villain harming those that they care about. Naruto's six-tail mode against Pain and Gon's power-up against Neferpito in HunterXHunter have similarities to how Super Saiyan Goku was initially presented. While in YuYu Hakusho, Yusuke's power-up against Toguro had so many similarities to the Cell fight, in that the trope was invoked by the villain in order to get a better challenge, that I swore that it was an intentional reference until I realized the two fights were being written for the same magazine at around about the exact same time. The issues with Beware the Nice Ones, like a lot of tropes, occur when it's overused. The trope is most successful when the audience isn't really expecting it. So, if a character loses their temper too many times in the story, they can start becoming known more for getting angry than from being unlikely to get angry. Thus, when they get angry, it will no longer be as much of a surprise and it'll lose a lot of its impact. The other issue is that if a character can be proven to get more powerful when they get angry, it starts becoming difficult to be legitimately worried about their safety in a fight, if we know they can increase their power mid-battle just by something bad happening. It can be used as a safety net to prevent the character from ever losing, and that can make the story lose a lot of its tension. The easiest way to alleviate this is by having a rage-induced power-up not always be successful in changing the tide of a battle. That way the audience knows that Beware the Nice Ones can work, but not always. So Beware the Nice Ones is a surprisingly important trope in the shonen genre. In Dragon Ball, the entire world and its characters were often saved by the trope occurring at the right moment. It's had a massive impact on how shonen fights are written, and has become associated with some of the most iconic moments in its genre. And that brings our discussion to a close. Next time, I'm not really sure what we're going to be covering. There's a few options for tropes that I've been thinking about for a potential episode, and I'm not exactly sure which one I'm going to do. But let's put it this way, this series is far from over, and there's a lot more parts of this series that we can still cover. So when that happens, see you then.